This week, the FAA could finally be close to getting long-term authorization. We're now pretty sure Bell's new helicopter will be relentless. And New Yorkers thought they were seeing flying people. I'm Ashley Hale. Welcome to Airborne on Aero TV. It's aviation's version of a long-running soap opera. This week's big story is the apparent end of 5 years of political infighting over long-term FAA reauthorization. U.S. federal lawmakers Tuesday settled on a 4-year funding bill for the FAA after an incredible 23 short-term extensions. The Associated Press reports the bill authorizes $63 billion for the FAA through the 2015 budget year and includes compromises on several contentious issues. Essential Air Services, a program which subsidizes airline service to small communities and which Republicans wanted to cut, stayed trimmed by about 5%. An estimated 12 communities would be affected. It would have been 13, but Senator Jay Rockefeller of West Virginia held out for a continuation of the entitlement program for Morgantown in his home state. Unions wishing to organize workers in the airline and railroad industries would be required to get 50% of workers to authorize an election, up from the current 35% guideline. The DOT would be bound to accept international standards for the shipment of lithium batteries on cargo flights, unless it can provide accident data to justify the tougher standards pilot unions have been demanding. A 3-hour tarmac stranding law was eliminated from the final version of the bill, but has already been put into effect through regulation by the DOT. 19 labor unions released a joint statement on Monday denouncing the compromise reached on the FAA issue. The letter says in part, quote, "Rewarding House Republican leadership's desire to rewrite decades of long-standing labor law in a flash by inserting an unrelated and controversial labor provision in a much-needed aviation safety and security bill without notice, hearing, or debate sets an extremely dangerous precedent. We urge the Senate to delete the provisions of the bill that would amend the Railroad Labor Act and pass the clean FAA reauthorization that all concerned recognize this country sorely needs and supports." The compromise on FAA reauthorization isn't a done deal yet, but Transportation Secretary LaHood is confident it will get done this time. ANN's Tom Patton has more.
A conference committee working to resolve differences between the House and Senate versions of the FAA reauthorization bill passed a compromise measure Tuesday authorizing $63 billion for the operation of the agency through 2015. The conference committee did so over the strong objections of labor unions, who are opposed to changes in union organization rules included in the measure. The compromise bill contains funding for the next steps in NextGen, cuts some subsidies for essential air services, provides over $13 billion for airport improvement grants, and addresses overseas inspection issues. A final vote could come as early as Friday on the measure, which would then likely be signed by President Obama. Transportation Secretary LaHood said as early as last weekend that he thought the compromise was, quote, "a done deal." His remarks came at a car show in Dearborn, Michigan. For now, the agency is operating on its 23rd continuing resolution, which will keep it going through February 17th. There is still strong special interest opposition to the bill, particularly from labor unions, and some members may try to salvage EAS money for their districts. But Secretary LaHood and Acting FAA Administrator Michael Huerta may finally soon be able to breathe a sigh of relief that the agency has a long-term funding mechanism in place. For Airborne, I'm Tom Patton.
Heli Expo 2012 is almost upon us, and Scott's Bell 47 said it will use the show to launch a Model 47 upgrade program. All Lycoming-powered 47G types are eligible, and the upgrades include new instrument panel interior, composite main rotor blades, and STC upgrades for reduction in drag, noise, and vibration. An overhaul which brings life-limiting components to zero time status is optional. Interested owners can have their own machine upgraded or trade for a refurbished model. Deliveries are expected to start in the first quarter of next year. Scott's Bell 47 is a new entity which acquired the original Model 47 type certificate from Bell last year. Eurocopter and Bell are both spinning Monday's Canadian federal court ruling in a patent infringement case. Eurocopter brought the action, claiming Bell had made a slavish copy of landing gear patented for the EC-120 for Bell's new 429, even after Bell employees raised concerns internally. The court found infringement, set monetary damages, ordered the comping to stop, and called for the destruction of all infringing landing gear on Bell products. Bell points out that a redesigned version of the sleigh-type skids, which the Canadian court found does not infringe, is the only version ever delivered to customers, and that 15 of the 16 claims filed by Eurocopter were found invalid. Bell says it may appeal the one finding of infringement. What's in a name? The Star Telegram is reporting that Bell Helicopter's clean sheet twin-turbine helicopter, which has been codenamed Magellan, will be called Relentless when it's introduced. Bell has reportedly applied for a trademark for the name 525 Relentless, with the numeric portion indicating this will be the company's first helicopter with a 5-bladed rotor. The formal introduction is scheduled for February 12th at the 2012 Heli Expo in Dallas, Texas. And of course, ANN will be there. You're watching Airborne, more in a moment.
Redbird Skyport is a multifaceted aviation laboratory charged with developing innovative solutions to the issues facing the industry.
It started out as a vision for a laboratory where we could objectively measure the systems and the processes that we were developing. Being able to put some objective measures behind the anecdotal evidence that we have about the value of motion and the application of this technology is very, very important, because until we can objectively measure it and play that data back, we can't design training systems that make the best use of it.
For more information about Redbird flight simulations, as well as Redbird's new Skyport, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com or www.redbirdskyport.com.
Welcome back. If you'd like to suggest a story for Airborne, Aero TV, our website or podcast, send us an email to news-spy@aero-news.net. Well, it's time for this week's Barnstorming commentary. And there's something bugging ANN's Jim Campbell. And when that happens, usually we all run and hide. But for those of you watching Airborne right now, sorry guys, you're kind of stuck. This week, Jim has a few things to say about Aero-Integrity.
Thank you, Ashley. There's something that's been bothering me for a long time, probably because ANN tends to stick its neck out more than most and do those hard stories that nobody else wants to touch these days. But over the last year or so, we continue to deal with some tough issues, and they just don't go away. We've had to expose untruthful and unethical operations by a former leader in the general aviation world, and God, we've gotten clobbered for it. We watched an aero con man, David Riggs, nearly get away with one dangerous scam after another, and gotten very little support in that regard. We've watched a software company try to bludgeon its own competitors via some questionable patent activity, and then attack anyone who criticized them for doing so. We've watched the FAA run roughshod over flyers' rights and even clobber pilots for unsubstantiated, anonymous rumors called into their hotline. We've seen a heroic FAA whistleblower, a guy by the name of Ed Jeska, a guy who ultimately gave up his livelihood and his licenses to give a voice to serious problems, get absolutely nowhere in trying to restore his life, and so much more. And the thought that hits me over and over and over again is this: we can do better. We can do far better. These tragedies and tribulations should be a first area of concern for all those who want a better future for tomorrow's flyers. Folks, this is an industry that brought the world amazing, extraordinary flyers. The Tuskegee Airmen, Charles Lindbergh, Amelia Earhart, Bob Hoover, John Glenn, more recently amazing folks like Sean Tucker, Alan Klapmeyer, Phil Boyer, so many others. I'd run out of names. There's so many. Surely we can do better. As we rebuild the world of aviation for future generations, let's make Aero-Integrity the foundation of everything we do. Surely we owe this to all those who will take up wings in tomorrow's skies. and for the tomorrow's aviators who are yet to fly. We're left an amazing legacy. Our integrity demands that we make sure we pass it on in as good or better condition as it was given to us. For the Aero-News Network and Aero TV, and of course, Airborne, I'm Jim Campbell.
A Massachusetts grand jury has indicted the pilot of a Cessna 310 twin on a manslaughter charge in connection with the crash that killed his daughter. Stephen Fay did not have the multi-engine rating required to fly the twin, and investigators say he had not met requirements for night currency. On New Year's Day 2011, Fay attempted a go-around at Orange Municipal Airport but hit a tree off the end of the runway. The DA says the accident happened 90 minutes after sunset. If convicted, Fay could face outcomes ranging from probation to up to 20 years in prison. Well, we still haven't heard the end of the LightSquared saga. The chair of the House Energy and Commerce Communications and Technology Subcommittee plans to hold a hearing to look into the FCC's allocation of spectrum of LightSquared before key interference questions were addressed. In a news conference outlining his 2012 agenda, Representative Greg Walden, an Oregon Republican, says he is, quote, trying to figure out how the cart got so far ahead of the horse. No specific date for the hearing has been determined. NASA reports a camera aboard one of NASA's Twin Grail spacecraft, short for Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory, has returned its first unique view of the far side of the moon. Thousands of middle school students will select target areas on the lunar surface and send requests to the Grail MoonCam Missions Operations Center in San Diego, which will send back photos for the students to study. The MoonCam program is led by Sally Ride, America's first woman in space, and will engage schools across the country. You can view the video yourself at nasa.gov. It's one of the several stories in a rotation on the agency's homepage. 2 veteran astronauts have announced their retirement from the agency. Shannon Lucid, a member of NASA's first astronaut class to include women, has retired after more than 3 decades of service. She's a veteran of 5 space flights, logged more than 223 days in space, and her 188 days in orbit aboard the Russian Mir space station in 1991 stood as an endurance record for women worldwide until Sunny Williams broke it in 2006. And Jerry Ross, the first person to launch into space 7 times, is wrapping up a career that also spanned more than 3 decades. Ross spent almost 1,400 hours in space and conducted 9 spacewalks to rank 3rd on the list of most extravehicular activity time in space. Franklin Chang Diaz is the only other astronaut to have flown into space 7 times. In just a moment, we'll look at a new video camera you can use to get better video and better sound when you fly. I'm Ashley Hale and you're Airborne on Aero TV.
Avidyne is the brand of choice for pilots who want innovative, easy-to-use avionics. And the new IFD 540 GPS Navcom sets a new standard for simplicity in communication and LPV navigation. As a slide-in replacement for existing 530 series navigators, and with a highly intuitive touchscreen control, the IFD 540 makes it much easier to access the information you want when you want it, reducing head-down time and making flying more enjoyable. Finally, you have a choice, and the choice is easy. Avidyne.
Thanks for joining us. One of the most popular sessions each year at AEA is the new product introduction session, where dozens of the latest high-tech avionics are seen for the very first time. For the 3rd straight year, AEA media partner ANN will live stream the session, as well as other programming, and for the first time, it will be available in HD. The 55th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show takes place on April 3rd through the 6th at the Gaylord National Hotel and Convention Center in Washington, D.C. Watch for more details on aeronews.net as the event draws near. Well, getting great audio and video in the air can be pretty difficult, and ANN prides itself on doing some of the best in-flight and in-cockpit work. However, we couldn't do it without the right tools. And lately, the newest offerings from NFlightCam, the NFlightCam Plus, is just wowing us with its capability, high quality audio and video output, and of course, its usability. ANN's Jim Campbell reports.
Hi, Ashley. As everybody knows, gathering the news is not that easy a job, and when you're dealing with airplanes and helicopters and all kinds of things, up to and including rocket-propelled vehicles and so forth and so on, gathering the requisite video and audio necessary to cover these things can be really tough. But we've had an interesting little tool dropped in our lap over the last year, and in particular in the last couple of weeks, an upgrade to it has really made our lives a whole lot easier. So let's do a short review of something that we think is really quite amazing. This is the NFlightCam Plus. I'll make a long story short, there have been a couple of generations of it that added GPS capability and Bluetooth capability. But what they did with this package was meld everything together, do a much nicer job. You now have HDMI out. You've got the ability to handle up to 32 gigabytes of storage. You've got the ability to run external power into it. Phenomenal capabilities. They now have a new lens adapter that gets rid of that weird stuttering prop blur, and a number of other factors that have made in-flight video pretty good, but not really great. This little puppy does 720p, 1080p. It's really been amazing. We've been using it quite a bit. We've used it in biplanes and rotorcraft. And the fact of the matter, the latest generation right now, which is 500 and change, is really impressing us in no uncertain terms. When you see the quality of the audio, the quality of the video, and how nicely they have detailed the final product here, most recently access to ports, access to all the capabilities, and the Bluetooth capability to look through your iPhone or your iPad to see what this unit is seeing at any one time and change settings on the fly. We really like it. We think it's something that everybody should try. And one other thing we might note here, why flight instruction isn't being done with one or two of these in every cockpit right now for every student to look over their lesson afterwards, take the chip home, download it, look at it, so forth and so on. That's beyond me. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I can't think of any reason in the world why anybody doing flight training right now shouldn't have these things on board. Anyway, try out the NFlightCam, nflightcam.com. Big thumbs up from us. And for the moment, when you got to strap it to someplace crazy, this is our first line of defense. For Aero-News, Aero-TV, and Airborne, I'm Jim Campbell.
Each week, we share with you a sample of an online video one of our viewers thought was especially entertaining. We call it AVW, the Aero Video of the Week. Well, there's a movie called Chronicle, which is opening nationwide in the US today. And a promotional stunt to promote the movie has gone viral on YouTube. 3 radio-controlled toy aircraft in the shape of flying people are launched and flown against a backdrop of New York City's skyline, attracting stares from surprised onlookers. The video was logging 1 million views a day after it was posted on Monday. Find it by entering "flying people in New York City" in the YouTube search box. The video you want runs 2 minutes, 38 seconds in length. And if you have a suggestion for a future Aero Video of the Week, send us a link to news-spy@aero-news.net. In releasing Rockwell Collins's first quarter earnings, CEO Clay Jones said that the company is performing well and that business jet production may increase this year for the first time in 3 years. He adds, Cessna and Bombardier are both improving and a recovery is coming, if not already underway. In last year's fourth quarter, Rockwell grew OEM and aftermarket sales by 14% each. Boeing entering normal production of its 787 is also good news. Every Dreamliner that comes off the production line includes $3 million in Rockwell Collins products. Cessna says the 400 Citation Mustang recently rolled off the assembly line. It's an impressive milestone for a model just over 5 years old, especially in this current economy. Cessna says Mustang customers most commonly use the Mustang for corporate business or for personal travel. It's also becoming popular in the air taxi service, with one fleet user reporting 2,200 hours logged. The plane is also finding use in special missions, including medical transport and airline flight training. The Citation Mustang's current price is just over $3 million and includes Garmin Avionics, Pratt & Whitney engines, and a maximum range of 1,100 nautical miles. Well, there's another new entrant into the already crowded LSA market space. Corvus Hungary says the Fusion takes lessons from its Racer 540 and the Red Bull Air Race series to produce a relatively inexpensive, high-performance plane with aerobatic capabilities. The construction will be mostly carbon composite. Engine options includes the Rotax 912, Jabiru 2200, and the Belgium-made UL 260. The company says a Lycoming 233 may be available in the U.S. market. MSRP will be about $136,000 US. Finally this week, 2 Toronto area high school seniors managed to send a package containing 4 cameras and a GPS-capable cell phone to the edge of space in a homemade styrofoam enclosure under a weather balloon. For fun, they placed a Lego man holding a Canadian flag on an extension off one side, and having posted a video to YouTube showing its exploits. The package traveled 120 kilometers in just 97 minutes and was retrieved using the cell phone signal a week later. The teens have been warned that their actions posed a risk to air traffic, but they at least picked a day while the wind would not have taken the balloon over the border into the U.S., a crime for which the TSA, no doubt, has a very special list. Get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. And join us again next week for another edition of Airborne here on Aero TV. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching. See you next week.